What was it like going from the competitive side where you're full on in competing mode to looking at dance from an academic point of view?
It was a little shocking, and I did not foresee that. I was like, why don't they understand the ballroom dancing, But then eventually, slowly, I shifted as well. And I was like, oh my God, there were some things that were
Mm.
just wrong in this, like I like very explicit comments.
And you didn't just
Exactly.
go, that's not right. You've gone several steps beyond that and go, let's do something about it.
Yes. I always wanted to find a way for this dance style to evolve because I find that society has evolved. And so why hasn't Latin dance?
Giulia Settomini is an Italian ex-competitive Latin dancer. She's an academic as well and holds an MA in choreography from Trinity Laban and an MA in arts administration and cultural policy from Goldsmiths University in London. And in this, she's focused on female leadership, competitive paradigms, and de-gendering dance roles. Welcome, Giulia.
Nice to meet you, Bobby. It's a real pleasure to be here today.
Oh, the pleasure's all mine. It's all mine. Julia, start us off. How did you start your dancing journey?
Well, my parents were dancers, so I started dancing when I was 3 years old. I have some videos of me being in a local festivals and so on, and I love those videos. I started competing when I was about 6 years old, and I competed until I was 21. I reached the first 50 in the world IDSF ranking list, and it was a really intense time. It's a full-on sport, so like you live as an athlete and you have
Yeah.
lots of pressure. And I felt after a little while that I needed something else. So after I moved to London to study choreography because I wanted to like change perspective and do other things as well.
Hmm.
And so dancing stayed very much in my life, but in a different way. And after I took off the competition, I had much more. I felt much more empowered to do what I really wanted.
You competed for so long. What was it like going from the competitive side where you're full on in training mode, competing mode, to looking at dance from an academic point of view?
It was a little shocking, and I did not foresee that. First of all, when I moved out of competition, I sort of took off a lot of pressure on my body. I
Mm.
used to have an eating disorder as well, so I was very much under pressure from this perspective. And I wanted to quit competing earlier on, but then everybody was like, "Oh, just keep doing it. You are doing well, and you should collect uh, the results of your effort." But then eventually, when I moved to London, Laban is a very contemporary dance school.
Mhm.
So, like, you really see dance from a completely different point of view, which is no longer about the aesthetic of it. It's no longer about the steps that you take. Dance is almost conceptual, right? I had a whole different perspective. And it took
Mm.
me a long time to adapt and understand what was happening. I remember at the beginning, I had some conversations with other students, and it was I was like, why don't they understand the ballroom dancing, But then eventually, slowly, I shifted as well, and I was like, oh my God, there were some things that were
Mm.
just wrong in this, like there were
Mm.
some the environment was maybe a little bit abusive, and I didn't realize that there
What
was
kind of
this.
things did you come to realize were wrong, but you never questioned before?
For example, the way that the teachers talk to you when they give you lessons. Many times they make comments such as you need to be sexier, but even stuff like you need to be more like a whore and stuff like that, like very explicit comments. Or they tell
Mhm.
your male dance partner, touch her here, like look at your butt like you want it and stuff like that. And I mean, you are 13, 14, 16 years old, it's just too early to hear such things.
Mm.
But you just think that these are compliments because this is all you've seen. So,
Yeah.
like
And if someone's
you,
telling you it's a compliment when you're so young,
yeah,
you don't know any different.
no, exactly. You really don't know how to stand up to such to such comment to such teachers. They are older, they know more than you. And
Hmm.
besides, I was also told that I have to go onto the dance floor without a brain because the man will decide everything, and I have to be like a butterfly. I was
Hmm.
also told that I am the bodywork of a car, and my partner is the engine, or a couple is like a Ferrari. Your partner is the engine, and you are like the bodywork.
Uh-huh.
And like, so it was like I was working so hard, with training 3 4 hours a day, and I was told that I just have to be pretty, and that was,
Yeah.
was just a little upsetting, honestly. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, but how amazing to come through that and go look back and go, no, no, that's not right. And you didn't just
Exactly.
go, that's not right. You've gone several steps beyond that and go, let's do something about it.
Yes. I always wanted to find a way for this dance style to evolve because I find that society has evolved. And so why hasn't Latin dance,
Yeah.
we need to create something new that is more in line with what we believe these days, with our values. And at the beginning, I had some difficulties because I didn't find a lot of support. We were talking about 2012, 2013, so quite a few years ago. But
Mm.
I kept working in the dance field, and eventually some teacher reconnected me to a PhD student, Val Menot, who's doing research in how the heteronormative roles in dance are abusive. So we conducted interviews, and they are now publishing their dissertation, which will be followed by 3 more books. So we have lots of theoretical basis to go and
Yeah.
say, look, we need to do this. This is not just for fun, it's because actually there are problems that are connected with the heteronormative roles in
Hmm.
dance and with the abusive environment. And now we are making a transition from the theory to practice.
Hmm.
So my latest project has just finished. I was now in Berlin for a month, and I was doing movement research. So the idea is to find a new movement vocabulary that keeps the basics of Latin dance. So the technique, the footwork, the leg work, the hips work, all of this will be kept, but that doesn't have defined roles and
Hmm.
implement switching within the routine, but not just switching when it's same-sex dance, but also when it's a cis man and a cis woman dancing together. We also want switching to be possible. We want the woman to be able to lead comfortably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So from your work with doing that switching, how did you find the process? Working with same-sex couples and cis opposite sex couples?
I find that switching offers a lot more opportunities for the choreography because we lose the central position of a man and the follower that runs around them. So we have a
Mhm.
lot more 360 degrees rotation and three-dimensional dancing. The spatial relationship changes and it's much more equal for both the partners, which is great. I found that switching was quite hard in the moment in which we were improvising in opposite sex dancing because I almost felt like when I had to take the lead, I should have apologized for it. Like I should be like, oh,
Mm.
may I now take the lead? Of course, we are wondering like how does the switch happen? Does the person who's following just impose their take the lead and decide that now they lead, or is the other one giving up the lead? So most of the time we found that me as a woman, I struggle to just impose myself and take the lead.
Yeah.
And
Did you
yeah,
find that did you find that when you're dancing with another woman, was it the same kind of challenge of taking the lead, or did you find that that more came through when you're dancing with a man?
yeah, definitely when I'm dancing with a man. When I'm
Mm.
dancing with a woman, I feel quite comfortable also because I've been teaching for many years. So like I do when I teach steps, I do dance with women as a leader, and then
Yeah.
I'm quite comfortable with that. Uh, but with men, it's always like you feel a little bit like you have to apologize or yeah,
Mm.
um, wait for their input. And
Yeah.
this is something that really made me upset because I thought I was I thought I was better than that.
But it's not a case of being better than that though. It's we can't help but be product of our society.
Right.
And as someone who's gone through such extensive training in leading and following, you've got such a high command for both, but you can still feel this almost apologetic request to take the lead that demonstrates how ingrained it is in our
Mm,
upbringing and the way we're raised that keeps that dynamic in place rather than it being something that we can just go, oh, okay, I'm going to forget about it at the door. It's
absolutely, yeah.
in our culture, unfortunately.
Yeah, that is true. And it's also true for all of the principle that we live by. Consciously, we are aware that, equality is the way to go, but somehow, subconsciously, we still sometimes act in a way that is not, even I consider myself a feminist, but I'm sure I sometimes fall back into the
Yeah.
patriarchal um, way of thinking.
Mm.
So
Well, it's a process, isn't it? We've started talking about it. That's great. We're saying we want and almost have equal pay, things like that. And now it's the smaller actions that start to actually create those cultural shifts. So things
yes,
like the projects you're conducting, the work you're doing, and hundreds of others, thousands of others out there, all these small things contribute towards those shifts.
absolutely. I totally agree with that. I do believe that we really need to create a new imagery that is accessible and it's liked, and we need to show that everywhere. Like we just literally need to flood social medias and YouTube and theaters and whatsoever with
Yeah.
as much as different inputs as we can, because as long as we keep seeing what capitalism wants to sell, which is like, almost naked girls selling beer bottles, that's not going to help.
Yeah.
We need to yeah, show something else,
Mm.
definitely.
And speaking of
Yeah,
almost naked girls, you've recently done some work with cross-dressing as well in your dance projects. Can you tell us a bit about that and the what you found, how it felt?
absolutely. Absolutely, it's been so interesting. I didn't think that cross-dressing would change a lot the way that we feel, but I have done that in two different times. Once for a photo shoot that was done to have pictures for my friend's PhD, and another time in my movement research now in Berlin. So the first one was just about posing, and the second one was also with involved dancing.
Hmm.
And I noticed that um, when I am wearing a skimpy Latin dress or very small clothes, I feel a little um, uh, extra aware of my body. So like my movement is not really free. But when I am fully dressed, like with the long trousers and a shirt or a t-shirt that is almost completely covered up, first of all, I am much more free when I move because I'm not so concerned about how my body looks. And second of all, which was the weirdest feeling, was that I have access to my partner's body. So like I felt much more confident taking the lead or touching them or,
Hmm.
commanding what to do, which is something that I didn't expect, because you wouldn't
Mm.
normally think that uh, what you're wearing empowers you, but it's
Yeah.
actually a fact. And actually, after confronting some of my friends that are not into dancing, but they have normal jobs, maybe as accountants and so on, they said that actually they felt that more comfortable when they're wearing trousers and or suit rather than a skirt when they present, and they feel that people take them seriously. So maybe this is also something to consider. We don't normally think about that because we try always to be attractive as
Hmm.
object. Instead, if we would be able to move a little bit into being more active subjects, like, so we take the lead. We don't care about what people think, how we look. We care that they listen to what we say. So
Yeah.
yeah, very interesting.
Yeah. And so that was when, so you're wearing long clothes,
Oh
or you're
yeah,
more
so
covered, and so your partner in this case was a man or a woman?
they're non-binary, and they were wearing like a short skirt and a top.
So there was that alternative experience.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And what do you think would be the benefits in, I guess the competitive world is your more expertise, but across the whole of dancing, if we can remove that defining role of gender normative roles, I guess as well, what is the scope for the growth in the scene?
Well, I think it would benefit literally everyone, because for sure, girls feel like they cannot take decisions, and they would feel empowered if they could. But also, people who have been brought up as leaders, mostly men, they would be soft, sensible, and also, like I've heard this a lot, the steps of the followers are always much more exciting
Yeah.
because the leader. So very often leaders want to also have that moment of, show off or crazy turns, and this is lacking a little bit. So why don't we just allow for everyone to dance whatever steps they want and dress
Yeah.
however they want? That would just be, this is another thing, the clothing. Like many people feel like the clothing is very limited. Like in the dress regulations for competitive dancing, the rules for girls is that they have covered the breasts area and just
Mhm.
a little this tall around the bum, and the
Very little
male
then.
very little, like, yeah, and the male dancer are covered literally from head to toe. They
Yeah.
can just show a bit of chest here,
Yeah,
that's it. And the colors are limited. They can't have decorations. Like it's a lot. Like so maybe some of them also wanted to wear some fringes and stuff like that to show the movement more free, right?
of
Doesn't
course.
have to
Yeah.
be, yeah.
And if we can
So
remove that, then it kind of takes away that funnel of when you go into a lesson or a workshop where you immediately think, okay, leader must be men, follower must be women.
yeah,
If we can say, well,
completely.
it's not about what you're wearing or your sex, it is what do you feel like doing? Which skill set do you want to work on?
Absolutely. Yes, I
Mm.
agree. And I do think that this will have like an impact in society. I think that dance just
Yeah.
is like in a small scale is what's happening out there in the whole world in society. So if we can change little things in the environment where we work, like I said, we can create a new image. We can create a new appealing image for people that can see they can do whatever they want and they don't
Hmm.
have to be judged. And then hopefully this will also have an impact in society where very often women still don't feel brave enough to apply for jobs that are like as a leaders, they feel that they always have to make extra effort to prove that they're worth the leading role.
Yes.
And all of this just needs to change.
Yeah, definitely. And yes, of course, these issues aren't just limited to the dancing. They're outside and beyond, but that works both ways. They're beyond, so of course they're in the dance scene.
Yeah,
So starting small, starting in spaces where we're already at home that we want to see grow and improve. I think that's a wonderful place to start to grow.
absolutely. I totally agree. You know, what's happening now is that a lot of people are just speaking up about this and they're connecting everywhere and also in different dance styles. I connected to some people of the queer tango scene and, you know, the swing community. Like literally, this is raising lots of awareness because
Mhm.
obviously the fact that we are connecting and talking about it is already a great step towards change.
Definitely. It definitely is, yes. And
Mhm.
speaking of even more change, you've conducted your first gender neutral Latin dance course in Italy recently.
Yes.
So, what style of dance was that first?
So I started with the Latin dances like cha-cha, rumba, but I
Cool.
also did salsa and bachata because I know socially these dances are, it's easier to find places where to dance salsa and bachata than cha-cha
Yeah.
and rumba. The goal of the course was for social dancing rather than competitive dancing. That's what we did. It went really well. Like I had mostly students from university.
Hmm.
That's where I mostly advertised. And I found it was very interesting because it's not very common that people take up dancing at university age. Usually either they are younger or older.
Cool.
And it was quite challenging because everybody was learning all the steps. So for beginners, this is it's a struggle to learn all the leader step and all the follower steps. So I was taking small parts of basic step and teaching them, and then teaching them how to switch. But it was really exciting, and the environment was really inclusive and nurturing. And so I definitely want to do more of that. I will
Hmm.
probably start the second season of this course from September in
That would be
Trieste.
very cool. Yeah, because
Yeah,
if you're bringing in something, so these students are coming into the lesson and they're learning both roles straight away, and it may be a bit challenging, but it's the same as when anyone starts dancing for the first time. It is a bit challenging. So,
yeah,
but when you don't know any different, that this is slightly harder or you're learning two skills at once, if you don't know any different, you're just learning to dance as far as you're concerned. So perhaps these dancers won't feel like, oh, it's harder to change or do one or the other because
true.
they're learning both together.
From the beginning, yeah, that's
Yeah.
that I think would really make the difference. And this is what I think we should implement eventually in dance schools. Like, you know, when people come in, whether they're kids, they're like teenagers, whatever age, first they should start learning both roles, and then
Hmm.
if they want, they can decide like, oh, I prefer to do this, I prefer to do that. That's fine. Like, we are
Yeah.
not saying that everybody has to switch all the time at all. Like, everybody's free to do whatever they want, but we should inform the
Yeah.
students and then they should make their own decisions instead of just
Yes.
imposing. Oh, another thing that would have a great impact is on putting partners together, because in competitive dancing this is like mononormative, like
Yeah.
they start dancing together and they keep dancing together. And
Hmm.
what do we look at is their height, their size, how they look, do they both are they both beautiful? You know, it's all about that. And if we allowed for women to lead, if a woman was much taller, if the follower was much taller than the leader, you know, they could just swap roles because this happens,
Yeah.
for example, when kids, the the girl grows up a lot, like she becomes really tall, and
Yeah.
then you have to split them up. Why? If they
Why?
like to dance together, right? Can't
Yeah.
she just spin him instead?
Exactly. Can't she just spin him? Come on.
Exactly. So,
Yeah.
and I've seen some posts from like a bachata dancer that dances as a leader mostly, and she was saying that she started doing this because she wanted to be able to decide how intense from a physical perspective the dance would be. And this is also
Mhm.
something we don't really talk about. Like if
Yeah.
you go to a salsa bar or whatever else, like, you start dancing as a follower, you have no decisional power if you want to, take it down a notch and, like, take a breath. You just have to fulfill the expectation of the leader. And this is
Yes,
sometimes it's a little,
you match their energy.
yeah, and it
Yeah.
can be frustrating. Maybe sometimes, like if you have 3 or 4 dances in a row, maybe you just want to relax a little, and but you want to keep dancing. As a leader, you could do that, but as a
Yeah.
follower, not so much.
Yeah, you either have to sit out or brace yourself.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. Absolutely. So yeah, overall, I think there's no argument. Like this needs to happen, and it will hopefully. Yeah. So for now, our goal would be now to organize workshops with professional dancers and eventually teachers too, because everything starts from teachers. So, and
Definitely.
uh, the idea is to just make people think of the impact that the wording or what they teach has on people, because I think we just reproduce what we see
Mm.
without questioning it at all. And,
Hmm.
in competition, there's also who wins, and the very gendered heteronormative couple usually are marked better than some leader who dances in a feminine way and so on, which also needs to change. So we need to educate, because I don't even blame these teachers or these judges or these dancers. They're just doing what the system requires.
First step is talking about them, which we have.
Absolutely. Here we are. Mhm.
Julia
Perfect.
Settomini, I look forward to seeing what you do in the coming months, in the next 2 to 3 years and beyond. You're doing some fantastic work. I'm really excited about it.
Thank you. Thank you. And I really look forward to listen to this podcast. It's been really exciting to speak to you today and heartwarming to meet people that think alike.
Thank you for listening to the Empowered Dancers podcast. If there's an aspect of the dancing you would like to hear about, or a particular teacher you would like to hear from, drop me a message and I will try to make it happen. Make sure you subscribe to get every episode as it comes out. Thank you so much for the comments and questions you are already sharing. I really, really appreciate it, and I look forward to serving you in next week's episode.